Chinese President Xi Jinping begins talks with European Union leaders this hour. It's part of Beijing's efforts to firm up ties with Europe as relations with the United States sour. Now, because of the pandemic, the summit has gone virtual.
Weeks after China's top diplomat Wang Yi toured Europe, President Xi Jinping is holding talks with the bloc's leaders, this time via video link. Trade will be in the spotlight. Beijing is eager to ink an investment deal already 7 years in the making by the end of the year. Despite ties being ruffled over issues like Hong Kong's national security law and China's treatment of ethnic Uyghurs, an editorial in China's state-run Global Times newspaper argues that it's in Europe's interest to strengthen ties with China, but the EU has warned that obstacles remain. The meeting comes as ties between the US and China deteriorate ahead of the November 3rd presidential election. Both sides are locked in disputes about trade, security, and the origins of the pandemic, and European leaders could find themselves caught in the middle.
Lucy Hoff joins us live from Brussels for more on this. Lucy, it might seem a big ask, but are there any breakthroughs expected tonight?
Well, certainly both sides have reiterated their hope that a trade deal can be signed off by the end of the year. But this has been 7 years in the making, with more than 30 rounds of talks and still some major obstacles in the way. As we were just hearing there, obstacles from the EU side about the need for reciprocal market access with China, its insistence on a level playing field, particularly China to reduce the number of state-owned enterprises and for greater transparency on that. There's also the need for the EU, for China to make greater commitments on climate change. But China has said that it is very much within Europe's interest to sign off this agreement. And certainly from the Chinese side, there is greater urgency as ties with the US continue to sour. So there has been some signs of potentially a small breakthrough. There's been the announcement of 100 geographical indicators that have been signed off to protect food and drink companies on either side. From the Chinese side, protection of white tea, from the EU side, kava and champagne. So that will be being put in place in the coming months. But yes, an agreement does look fairly out of reach by the end of the year because of those still those areas of agreement, and a sign that both sides are far apart on that. But certainly we will hear some warm words today as the two sides meet, and that meeting getting underway as we speak.
Lucy, you mentioned the United States. Is the summit likely to complicate the European Union's relationship with the US?
Well, the EU has been clear that, it is well aware of rising tensions between the US and China, but it doesn't want to be a battleground between those two superpowers. It wants to stand firm on its values and to really keep its responsibilities. It doesn't want to become too involved. So it is both looking to strengthen ties with Beijing in economic terms, but also to keep its relations strong with Washington. With regards to China, of course, there has been rising tensions due to the situation in Hong Kong, and we are expecting human rights and the security law in Hong Kong to play a major part in today's discussions, with the EU trying to tread a diplomatic line between wanting to strengthen economic ties but also to keep that message clear and condemning what is happening in Hong Kong. With regards to Washington, clearly we're in a situation of flux. We're 2 months ahead of the election there, and certainly the EU is sort of biding its time on this with the hope that perhaps there will be the possibility of strengthening transatlantic ties and developing a new coordinated strategy on China. China will be well aware of what could happen in the interests of a more united transatlantic front, and is looking to boost economic ties with the EU with the possibility of that after November's election.
Plenty to discuss on the table for EU leaders and China. Lucy, thank you very much for that. Lucy Hoff reporting for us from Brussels.